The sexual revolution failed women. I mean, it failed women miserably. So, one of my favorite people here, Davis Rennie, made a video titled Women's Sexual Liberation, or Women's Liberation, or something along those lines. I suggest that you guys go check out that video, either before you watch this one, or after. It really doesn't matter. But go check it out, because it is a fantastic video, where Davis Rennie talks about women's sexual liberation on one side, and I am going to talk about it on the other side. So, in the words of a great man, shall we begin? So, what Davis Rennie primarily focused on in his video was the economics of sex. And I'm going to talk about that too, and really more complexly, probably in future videos. But in this video, I'm going to talk about how the sexual revolution really failed women in terms of their relationships, and how it failed women in terms of making them happy. You see, because we're going to have to start off with something that should be incredibly basic and really shouldn't even need to be talked about in great detail, but it does because of how hedonistic our society has become. But we need to talk about the intended purpose of sex. Now, the first purpose of sex is reproduction, okay, which is what we learn in biology class, what we should have learned in biology class. Now, a lot of people will then come back and say, well, what about gay people and what about asexual people? And I will reply, what about them? Just because gay people can have sex with each other, it doesn't change the intended function of sexuality. The whole point of having sex with the opposite sexes is to reproduce. That is why a vast majority of society is heterosexual. That's also why it's worthless to even come up with the term like heteronormative, because it almost goes without fucking saying. So, yes, the intended purpose of sex, or the first reason why we human beings have sex, is to reproduce. And again, a lot of you people will probably come up and say, well, what about contraceptives? And I will reply, well, the mere existence of contraceptives actually supports my fucking point. Anyway, the second part of the second part of the intended function of sex is intimacy. Now, sex is the most intimate thing you do with another human being. One thing that oftentimes always confuses me is I don't understand how people can keep secrets or keep really personal and close information about themselves from perfect strangers, and yet will go off and have sex with people they've met and known for 2 hours. It's really strange to me. I say, if you won't whisper a secret to someone you don't know, how could you rationalize having sex with them? Well, the answer is simple. It's because we've taken sex, we've disconnected sex from its original purposes, you know, and we use it now as a toy, as a commodity. It's just something that you just do. And the truth of the matter is, it's not something you just do, especially for women. Now, the interesting thing about women is women were not designed to be promiscuous. Now, and you're probably wondering, well, how can I say that? Well, because women literally aren't designed to be promiscuous. Women only get like 1 egg a month, right? And then they have their period. Well, not a month, but, you know, they have their period. The egg gets discharged. You know, they only have 1 egg cell in their uterus at a fucking time. They can only carry 1 child, for the most part. Of course, twins and triplets can happen, but for the most part, you get pregnant and you have 1 baby at a time. You know, women really aren't designed to go out and have lots of sex with a bunch of different men, because then you won't know who the father is, and that is a pretty important thing when it comes to rearing up a child. So again, women, they're literally not designed to go about and have a bunch of sex physically and mentally and emotionally. Now, women really bind, like really attach to what I've noticed is like objects and to people specifically. Like, women are very emotional creatures in general, okay? And so women really bond and attach to people and different things a lot deeper than most men do, right? So like a woman will see like a teddy bear her ex-boyfriend gave her, and because it was him, she will be angry at that shit. If she will attach all of her memories and all of his essence to that object that she has. That's why material things are really important to women, because those material objects carry pieces of someone's memory that they bind to. It's a very interesting thing, right? So women bind themselves to men, right, when they have sex with them. It's usually the first man a woman has sex with she binds to, sometimes the strongest, but it's not always. It's not 100%, but it is a lot. So virgin women do bind to men a lot more than women who've had sex with 20 or so more guys. There are also multiple charts and surveys conducted that show that women who have lower amounts of sexual partners outside of their husband actually stay in longer and stable long-term relationships than the women who don't. And the reason why is obvious. It's because she's bonded to the man. And if she spends a great deal of time building a connection with the man before they even have sex, then the bond that she'll receive will be even stronger. And the whole purpose of this is to keep the family unit together, so your children will have a father around. That's the point, is to keep them all together, because children need their moms and their dad. So again, women aren't really designed to be promiscuous creatures, not mentally or emotionally. This is how the sexual revolution completely and utterly failed women, because women get emotionally destroyed whenever they get used for sex, or when guys they really like or care about just use them and abuse them. Alright, so now that we have discussed the intended purpose of sex, and now that we have talked about women and how they emotionally bind to men and things in their life, let's talk about how the sexual revolution failed women. First thing we should talk about, is remembering and keeping in mind that our modern day society uses sex as a commodity, as a toy, as something to play around with. And what a lot of people, and I've noticed this about a lot of different feminists, or like the sex positive feminists, is that they don't like to acknowledge the fact that some women, and some people in general, use sex to mask their insecurities. A lot of people that I've seen when I make my videos about slut shaming, and I say this sometimes too, that a lot of people who are promiscuous are doing so to cover up or mask some insecurity that they have. A lot of women do have low self-esteem and do have different type of deficits, which lead them to seek attention from men. Now the interesting thing about that is women crave attention from men anyway. Like, women need masculine attention in their lives. Like, not attention from like people with penises, but like masculine male attention. Like, they need that attention in their lives, and they need their dads. And a lot of women who don't have fathers in their lives, don't have dads to show them what it means to, like, be loved by a man or to be with a man, do end up becoming promiscuous because they're searching out for a man to take care of them, or searching out for a man to replace that father they never had. Now, you had feminists encourage women to go about and just have a bunch of sex, and they do that, and they don't take into account the fact that this is emotionally scarring and damaging for a lot of women, because for most women, to even have sex with a man, they have to trust them to some degree, or they have to be comfortable, and they have to be vulnerable in order to let that man even be able to go about and have sex, and a lot of people don't take into account that that is what happens to a lot of different women in general, is that they will get damaged. Again, so I told a story earlier on my channel about this one girl who tried to use sex in order to get a relationship out of a man. And again, a lot of feminists, of course, they don't acknowledge that women can be manipulative, but this one girl, again, you can go listen to the entire story on my channel, but this one girl tried to use sex in order to get a man to stay with her. And lots of women do try to do that. They'll open up to guys submissively, or they'll open up to different bad boys that they want to keep in their lives by continuously having sex with them. Except the problem is, that's not going to keep a man there, because men can compartmentalize a lot better than women can. Like, women don't compartmentalize like men do, and that's why, if one man does something bad to a woman, all men are fucking terrible, because she associates that one guy with everyone instead of compartmentalizing and separating him from the rest, which is an entire subject unto itself. So, when you take into account that you've encouraged women to just go out and have a bunch of sex, and you completely neglect the fact that women pair bond, or women are very emotional creatures, you have put them in a situation where they could be manipulated by the top tier group of guys, because Here's the interesting thing about the sexual revolution. The interesting thing about the sexual revolution is that it was sold to women based on a lie. And that will be the focus of part 2. So, hopefully this is giving you guys a little something to think about, just like the foundation, groundwork, to get those gears to start turning. Tune in for part 2 where I talk about the economics of sex and I blow your fucking mind. That being said, I certainly hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, yeah, go ahead and click the like button. Go ahead and click that subscribe button. Comment box below, and as always, have a great day. I will see you cool cats soon. Adios.